And a global greetings to everyone joining the Good for Business show. I'm your host, Michelle J. Raymond, and this week I'm joined by one of my close connections of recent times, Zach Mitchem. Welcome to the show.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. I've loved meeting with you, talking with you, learning about LinkedIn, so excited to share some of my wisdom.
I know. It's so cool because, I kind of go from just connecting to, hey, I really like you. You know your stuff. Can you come on my show? And you're like, yes, Michelle, we're going to jump in here and do this. So I thank you for being the yes person that jumps at these opportunities. For people that haven't met you before, who are you? What do you do? And who do you help?
Yeah, so my name is Zach Mitchem. I'm a YouTube strategist. I love helping businesses, professionals, with personal brand, anything like that on YouTube. I love working with people that have a video podcast. YouTube for me is kind of the center of everything because it lives forever and it can kind of build all this stuff to help you build your business, get clients and all that. So if you're trying to build a business or personal brand with YouTube, I'm your guy.
I love it. So I started to build a YouTube channel a while back, and it wasn't a primary focus when I first started. But over time, what I got really present to and why I'm focusing more on it is because I was sick of creating posts on LinkedIn that disappeared down the feed like yesterday's news. 48 hours later, they were gone, never to be seen again. And some of my best works literally just went down the home feed drain. And so I thought, how am I going to keep my content alive for longer? And, YouTube was a definite, way that I could make sure that things were searchable and could be found well into the future. I mean, is there do you get still people watching videos that you've put out there from ages ago? What is the lifespan of content on YouTube? Is it literally forever?
Yeah, honestly, and unless it's very timely, it usually is. If you look at some of the best clients that I've worked with, their best videos or the videos that get the most views are multiple years old. And sometimes if they've been on there that long, like 9, 10 years old, that are still getting views. So it really is, as long as it's still relevant and people still like the content, it's forever. Like on LinkedIn, you have amazing content that I know people would still like, but LinkedIn doesn't show it anymore, but YouTube would.
Yeah, and it's searchable. That's one of the downfalls I think on LinkedIn is it's hard to go back and find these things. But I want to ask you a question because I'm sure that people are kind of scratching their heads going, what's a video podcast? We get the podcast, they're probably listening into this when it turns into the Good for Business show podcast. But what's a video podcast act? What's the difference?
Yeah, so I get this question a lot, and when I give the definition, some people are like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Others like, no, it's over here. So my definition of a video podcast is a show that can be enjoyed with video and just by audio. So a lot of my YouTube videos, if I'm showing equipment or gear, things like that, I'm talking through it, you're gonna be lost if it's audio. But some of it, the experience will be better with video, but you can absolutely just listen to it. And so you do treat them differently. The only true video podcast would be Spotify allows you to upload video with your podcast, but it has the downsides of both podcasts and the downsides of YouTube. So I don't really talk about that much, but it's a show that you can enjoy both with video and audio.
And is there a particular age group that you find enjoys video, or is it universal?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to remember the company around this study, but they quit or send out questionnaires on podcasts, who listens, what they listen to, how they prefer it, and they found that it was 60%, I think the last time they did it, that prefer video with podcasts. And so I think it's universal. If I look at statistics across my channels, clients' channels, I find people from the lowest they tracked, 12 all the way up to 65 plus, they like video. Video is more visual, kind of allows you to learn a little bit better. And it just, even if you're not watching the video, which is kind of funny with YouTube podcasts, you want to see it at first. You want to kind of trust the person. Can I trust you? How do you look? How do you present yourself? Okay, good. Now I'm just going to listen. So, but it does help.
And, that's what I love about it is it's you come to life. I love writing. It's one of my favorite forms of content to do. But the fact is you can't see me, feel me, get that energy across, no matter what words I use, and I wish it could be that. So for me, the other thing is I love video because it can be repurposed in so many different ways. And when I'm creating as much content as I am, not only do I want it to live for as long as possible, I want it to be able to be repurposed in lots of different ways. So that's kind of how I jumped into it. But you help businesses with video podcasts as well. Like, what does that look like? How can you help a business with a video podcast?
Yeah, no, I think the biggest thing that I see here is so many businesses. We have Gary Vee giving the advice of post everywhere, post 10 times a day or more. And it can work. It can work for brand awareness. But the problem is I see too many clients or too many businesses posting, and they're just posting because they know they're supposed to. Like, they don't really like, okay, this goal of this post is to do this, or the goal of this channel is to do this. And so when I'm looking at a YouTube channel, I'm saying, okay, are we getting more clients this way? Are we getting brand awareness? Are we building your email list? Are we selling courses? What are we doing? And so we need to have pieces of content that support that goal, but also pieces of content that just straight up give value so people know, like, and trust you. And kind of, it's an art and a science, kind of balancing both of these. So you're not posting ads on YouTube, but you're also not just, posting all of the value without capturing, something in return.
And what I got out of our first conversation was literally, you're probably the guy that spent 10,000 hours to become an expert digging into YouTube to work out what works. So I'm going to pick your brain over the next, 25 minutes or so to get some of that knowledge out of you. And I'm going to start with something that actually, this is a question just for me. I'm not going to lie. I make these conversations so that other people can listen into answers I want. But if we've got a YouTube video podcast versus a YouTube video, now we've got YouTube Live and we've got YouTube Shorts. Help us out. Like, when do I use which? What's the difference? Like, can you give us a quick overview?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, for the core of anything, I would say start with a video podcast. If you are building a personal brand, you're building your business, we need to see you as the expert. We need to learn from you. And so an hour-long video of you either solo, sharing wisdom, knowledge, your journey, having someone on, coaching and consulting them, asking questions. I mean, interviewing guests is great, but it shows that you're a good interviewer or host. You're bringing in their expertise, which is great, but you want to balance that with some of these other ones. But the reason I like these is because they're longer. The fastest growing segment of videos on YouTube is an hour plus. 1 to 3 hours is where I'd recommend you be. And so it's a little difficult because you do at that beginning have to keep people's attention for the first 3, 4, or 5 minutes. If you can do that, they'll watch the rest. If you mess up here, then the rest doesn't really matter. But if you get that right, YouTube loves those videos because they can show more ads. They do grow slower, but over time they get more views long term. YouTube videos, I shorten that into like the 15-minute range is where I would say most of the people listening to this want to post in. That's if you have a specific question. You want to dig into something. You want to be searchable. It's utilitarian of some sort. How do I do X? Those are your SEO keywords, searchable videos. The podcast, you want YouTube to suggest those. 70% of views on YouTube are from it suggesting the next video. So I want you to focus there. 30% is the search. And so search is great, but you don't want to focus there. Otherwise, you're kind of ignoring the bulk of it. Going down, we have YouTube Live. I really don't recommend you to go live on YouTube unless you have something that's timely. If you're like, hey, I don't care if this video is dead in a week because I was able to talk about my book or a special deal I have going on or my event, something like that. There are exceptions, but YouTube doesn't promote lives like it does the other videos. And then shorts, I kind of get a little bit of flack, I guess, for this because all the data I have access to, whether it's me or my business partner, Evan Carmichael's invested in my business and we work together. The data is not amazing for taking those people to long form, but that doesn't mean they don't have a purpose. And so usually I'm saying don't post shorts, but I'm saying that in the fact of like, ideally you're posting 7 1-hour videos a day. You don't want to post more than 1 a day. I can't do that. Most people can't do that. If you're a bigger business, you have a team, you can do that. If you're going to post nothing or you're going to post a short, definitely post a short. You're going to get views. You're going to get some subscribers. It is going to help. It's not as good as posting an hour-long video or maybe a 15 or 20-minute video. But if the option is no post or a short, absolutely post a short.
Yeah, we've got to do what we can get done. And I've obviously learned something today about lives, and I might change my strategy around how I stream this and reuse the Good for Business show when I'm recording it. So I appreciate those insider tips that you've given us because, it can be complicated when you look at YouTube. It's something that I probably should have known. Just like LinkedIn, there's so many intricacies that yes, you can upload a video and yes, you can write the description and that's all easy to do. And it's pretty easy to set up a channel. That's all fine. But then I discovered there's so many other things behind the scenes that really impact how far my video content went. And when I started to learn that, I was like, whoa, Michelle, like this is not just a ha ha ha, let's just post a video and off we go. And I should know better, right? I teach people the same thing on LinkedIn, all the intricacies that make the difference. But yeah, strategy first, goals first. I love that you said that. We're so totally aligned on those side of things. So like if I create it, so I've got my, YouTube channel, I'm creating videos, I've got that going on. How does it actually help me to grow my brand, be it personal or the company brand? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I think there's a lot here. I think if people are finding you on any social, you're helping to get them to know, like, and trust you. Daniel Priestley, he wrote Key Person of Influence. Love that book. But he talked about having 7 hours of interaction and 11 touch points with someone before you know, like, and trust them well enough to buy their course or buy their book. Like, depends on the price point, obviously, but that's really kind of where you want to be in order to interact with someone without actually having to interact with them, and maybe in person as well, but that kind of sets a basis. So if you're watching 7 1-hour podcasts, you're pretty well there, and if you like me and trust me or not. Like, you can make a pretty good decision after that. If you're on TikTok and you're scrolling through, I do have, I don't even know, 500 videos on there. Even if you watched all 500 of those, maybe if like and trust me, but they're such small snippets. Like, I'm all over the place because I'm trying to give you value in 10, 15, 30 seconds, and it's difficult. And so if you're creating these longer videos, you can figure out if I can help you or not. You can figure out those things. And hopefully, if I've done this right, I've taken up a box in your brain where it's like, hey, this person was just talking to me. They want to build their personal brand with a YouTube podcast. Zach's the guy. Or I want to grow on LinkedIn and really do my thing. Michelle's my gal. Like, if you can take up that box, people will remember you, whether they need your services or not. So on YouTube, it lives forever, and YouTube does the work for you. It goes and it suggests people to watch your content. So I think it's the best place to really build your personal or your business brand.
And I love that even if I jump onto YouTube and I want to look up something completely unrelated to the services that you do, that first screen that greets me, because I'm following your channel, there's always like a thumbnail that pops up with your face that says, "Hey, Zach's just released this video." And it's easy for me to kind of get sidetracked. I'm a sidetracked Sam that's like, "Oh, look over here, shiny thing. I want to go and see that. What's Sam, what's been happening out on these channels as I'm looking for something else, and down the rabbit hole I go." So for me, that whole helping you to stay top of mind, which I think is really important. I've been, rightly or wrongly, using my channel to answer lots of frequently asked questions that I get. So being the company page person, lots of people come to me and ask very similar questions regularly. And they might be just little ones. People don't want full training, but I want them to know that I know my stuff. So I'm probably the person that you mentioned before that sits in the 15-minute how-to style videos at this point. I haven't ventured into the 1 hour long shows. I've done a half an hour one. The 1 hour show, I think, listening to you just before, showing my credibility is like the next step up for me. And, yes, I've had lots of guests and I love them all. Some of them are joining us here today as well. But yeah, just really showing my expertise in that deep dive, I think is what you're saying, like really show people what you know about your stuff. So is there anything else that you want to add on that one about, what other types of videos might help to build brand awareness? Is there a particular style that works best?
I think there's a couple of factors that play here. One is, what do you enjoy making? Like, if you want consulting clients and coaching clients, show people. You can, like, bring people on, help them with their LinkedIn, consult, coach with them, and just enjoy making it. If you don't like making that content, or if that's difficult for you for whatever reason, find something that is. Like, just because 1 to 3 hour videos is the best or the fastest growing doesn't mean it's the best for you. And so I think that's the hard thing here. It's like giving very general advice, but each person gets to decide, hey, I love doing this. Like, I was doing hour-long solo podcasts, and I'm finding it's a little bit harder for me to sit there for an hour and just keep going. I can do a half hour easy, 45 minutes. You get to the hour mark, and I'm just kind of like, okay, where do I go next? If someone asks me questions, I could go for 3 hours. That's easy. But it's figuring out what you like to make and what is showing, what you want to actually have happen. Because if you have a business goal, you have a personal goal, we need to see something that allows you to accomplish that. The coaching, if you want to sell books, or your services, things like that. So I think it's really figure out what you want, and then make sure that you're consistent with YouTube. I think we have all of these platforms, and we go all over the place. Whatever platforms you're going to be on, just be consistent there. People will appreciate that.
What does consistent look like on YouTube? Is it once a week, twice a week? Like, what kind of consistency does YouTube like?
Yeah. So the absolute best thing you can do is post once a day. That is the best thing you do. Don't post any more than that, because one of the features of YouTube is to show your newer videos in browse features, and you can kind of push videos off earlier if you're posting too frequently. So I wouldn't post more than once a day, but I wouldn't post any less than once a week either. Like, you can. There are channels that have grown massive by posting once a month. I think is once every other month, maybe is the least frequently that I've seen, but they're spending 60, 80 hours on those videos. Those are very, very well produced videos. So that can happen, but the rule, I would say, post as frequently as you can. 1 to 3 times a week is probably where I'd want most people that I'm working with.
Now, I'm going to ask you another question, which is another personal question, which I'm going off script here.
Yeah.
Like, what is a reasonable number of followers for a channel? Like, because I get on there and it seems like everybody else has got 1 million. I think I'm coming up to 500. That to me has been a journey to get there. It's not as easy to grow because obviously it's not my primary platform. But if I'm coming up to 500, like, where is a good number? And I know you're probably going to answer it and say, well, it depends what your niche is and your audience. So, okay, so I'm going to probably answer my own question a little bit. But like, if I'm at 500 and everybody else feels like they're at, hundreds of thousands or even millions, like, where do the stats fit? Not my perception.
Yeah. So I'll give you stats answer, and then I'll give you kind of the it depends answer. Statistically, 80% of channels have less than 1,000 subscribers. So if you hit 1,000, you're in the top 20%. I think it drops to top 10% is like 10,000. And there's only, I think it's 30,000 channels. Maybe it's in America that have over 100,000. Like, it's very, very small percent. Like, if you have over 100,000, you're top 1% of the 1%. So don't think you have to have that many. You're doing a lot better than you think you are. And usually it takes 2 years to get to 1,000 subscribers on average. And that's by posting schedule, but it's not about the subscribers. I made $15,000 on a channel, like first 10 months. The last three months, so months 7 through 10, I had 600 subscribers. I ended with 1,000, and I made 15 grand in those 3 months. So it's not about how many subscribers. Maybe it is for you. Maybe your goal is 1 million subscribers, and that's what matters. But that's why I like working with businesses or personal brands, because there's another number behind it that really matters. And so if you stick at 500, but you are so niche down in your services, like you're able to build $1 million a year business, do you really need more? Probably not. But if you're focused on just AdSense and that's the only thing that's coming through, and you're in a bad niche, maybe you do need 1 million subscribers.
For me, what I discovered was, obviously I'm best known for company pages on LinkedIn. And I recognized that, for a long time I was the only one, and probably still to a bigger degree, still the only one talking about company pages. And so what I discovered was, why not create a YouTube channel that talks about just company pages? And this is where I want to tighten it up a little bit. And obviously the advice that you're giving today has made my mind start going, and the wheels are turning, and I've got some ideas. But I don't expect a big number. And it's, again, not my primary goal. But what I've noticed now that I'm sitting around that 500 mark, what's been happening is I can see more comments on the videos. I can see more questions coming through. And I've had a couple of people start to reach out to me and say, I saw this on the YouTube channel and now I'm coming to find you on LinkedIn. And so that was part of my, being discovered on other platforms, and bringing people back to my, primary platform being LinkedIn. But obviously, there's reminders keep popping up from YouTube saying if you get to 1,000 and 4,000 watch hours, then you can start to earn money from it. And I'm, in the beginning, I was like, how do I even get 100? But it's like everything. You have to start at zero and you have to have patience to get to the 500, get to the 1,000, and be okay that there's no feedback coming, and I think that's the hard part. There is no vanity metrics in the beginning that make you want to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And
Any advice for people starting out that are in that position?
yeah, there's a couple of things. One, invest in yourself as far as like education. I think the biggest thing that I did was I spent a lot of time learning how to make my stuff look better, sound better, practice making those crappy videos I made when I started this channel. So my We Are Video Makers, Zach Mitchem channel is only, I guess it's about a year old now. But I made 30 videos, which most of them have been unlisted because they're on topics I don't really cover anymore and don't fit the brand. That's really the only time I think you should take them down. But I made 30 videos in 6 weeks, and like video videos, 5-10 minutes, not hour long, but I really had to learn my voice. I had to practice, even though I had already made, before I started this channel, probably 500 videos. I had to kind of relearn for what I was doing now. And so know that your first videos aren't gonna be great, and it's okay. You're practicing, you're learning, you're growing. And sorry, I don't want 1 million subscribers when I'm learning and I'm tripping over myself and I'm trying to figure all this out. Like it's okay. I only have a few hundred. But when you do finally get that stride, when you do start to get there and learn what good content is, you'll grow. You really will. And the other thing, when you're talking through that, what you're doing with your channel, one thing for beginners, I say pick 3 shows. So like for you, LinkedIn company pages, everything about that can be one show. Your podcast, because it is the same audience, that can be one. And then maybe you doing consulting or one-on-one or like sharing your wisdom knowledge. You have 3 pillars, 3 shows that all help the same audience. If you have a different audience, you probably need a different channel, but as long as it's the same audience, these 3 shows are going to keep people coming back, because they're going to dive really deep on the LinkedIn company pages and be like, okay, I'm good, but I don't know how to do this over here, or like I really need some help over here on LinkedIn still. And they can kind of travel through, give their brain a little bit of a break, and still, stay in your ecosystem of content.
Say you've inspired some people that are listening in today and they want to get started with a video podcast.
Yeah.
What do they need? Where do we start? And what are the typical things that people skip and don't pay attention to that you think, hey, get this right and it'll set you up for success in the future?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, tomorrow I'm posting a video on how to set up a video podcast studio from like no budget to medium budget. I'm not going over my studio. I'm going to do another video on that, but most people think, okay, I need to get the camera, I need to get the light, I need to get the microphone. When I started, I used my phone, which works really, really well, especially if you have even just a somewhat recent smartphone. You can get really good video that way. Microphone, I do recommend spending more on that. You don't have to, but if you're going to spend on something, should be a microphone. And then lighting, do you need it? It's helpful, but you can use a light, like a window, and just position it right. So what do you need to get started? You probably have most of what you need. Probably invest in a microphone. What I would recommend is that learn how to use what you have. So before you go buy a camera, before you go, upgrading a bunch of things, record with your phone. If you can get the lighting to look good with just your phone, you're going to be able to do it with a camera as well. Like one of the things I really, at the time, I was like, I just need a camera. I don't want to have to use my phone. But I'm really glad I had to spend 6 months learning how to make things look good on something that doesn't look quite as good, because I had to try harder. I had to learn more. And when I got the camera, it was easier. And so if you already have those things, like you're good to go. Like I would either hire an editor or learn some basic editing. I think that is important, but you don't have to have a crazy setup. I do have, I think it's like $35,000 worth of gear here. It's been a journey. Like this is what I love to do. But when I started, I had $500 worth of stuff. So you can start with what you have. The one note on there, people get wrong. is they'll buy a shotgun microphone. And I don't think, if you're starting a podcast, you're not going to make this mistake, hopefully, but like the long tube microphones, buy some sort of dynamic microphone like this. It'll reject noise better and you'll sound a lot better. That's one of the biggest mistakes I made. I have 22 microphones and it took me too long to figure out dynamic microphones, what you want.
So which microphone are you using there? Because we did get a question about it. What is
Yeah.
the microphone that you're currently using?
Yeah. So this one is the Heil PR40. It's one of my favorite podcast microphones. I have an entire desk over there of microphones, and like I have two boom arms because I throw other microphones on and do reviews. And like if you want a budget microphone, this is the Samson Q9U. That's probably what I would recommend for budget. This is not even close to budget. So, but yeah. Yeah, good question.
I love that. And, that's the thing. It doesn't take a lot to actually get started to set up the channel. And there is a lot of learning along the way as we go, that's for sure. So, there, one other tip that I'm going to give people that are either watching or listening in today, I highly recommend go to Zach's profile. There's two things that you're going to do. Top right hand side underneath the cover image, there's a bell. Click on that so you get notified of the posts that are coming that are going to show the setups that you can use if you want to get started. And he has so much great content. There's a reason that I have the bell turned on for Zach because I always get so much value. The second thing that you're going to do, he has a link there where you can download a free 1 hour course, I think it is. And it's just jam packed full of things that you can learn for free. Let me say that again, for free. And it's just crazy. So I really encourage people to go to his profile and do those two things. So as we come around, I'm going to ask you, what makes a great video podcast? So let's start with a couple of things. I'm going to go through a couple of questions. Thumbnails. How much attention do I need to give to them?
As far as everything other than making your content, they should get the most attention. It is by far the most important thing for teaching YouTube, that because you want consistency. If someone clicks on it and then they click on another and another, YouTube learns, they watch your content over. So we're going to suggest it more. So if you're going to focus on anything, tags, titles, description, thumbnails number one.
Thumbnails number one. Okay. YouTube's built on, from what I can figure out, watch time. The longer that you keep people watching your videos, the better. The better the outcome for everybody. How do I make a good video? How do I keep people watching?
Yeah, so I think this is the biggest mistake people in the podcast world make when coming over to YouTube is, in podcasts, I know I'm going to be here. There's going to be an ad at the beginning. We're going to be a little slow getting in. We're going to introduce the guest. On YouTube, I like to pull a clip from the last third, like a gold nugget that's like really controversial, just like, whoa, what's going on here? Put it at the beginning, maybe 15 to 30 seconds, and then cut as much fluff as you can in the beginning. Get right into the value, because when people are clicking on your video, they're wondering, is this the right video for me? Like, am I in the right place? If you can get that first 3 minutes of people watching, they're going to watch the rest of the time. And that's why YouTube likes long videos, because if you have an hour-long video, it's a lot easier to get a 20-minute average watch time than if you have a 10-minute video, which you can't get 20 minutes. So, yeah.
Any other tips for making a great video podcast that you'd add in?
Yeah, I think share your secret sauce, share your expertise. Like for me, I love Alex Hormozy's how he puts this, but he give away all of the information and sell the implementation. Like it feels like you're like giving something valuable away, because you are. But the point is, those people that you actually want to work with are going to take that value and say, there's no way I want to do this. I know that this person knows what they're talking about because all of that made perfect sense to me. So I'm going to hire them. Everyone else that's going to take the time to watch 27 of your videos and figure this thing out, you don't want to work with them anyway, because they're not going to be a great client. So give everything away, and the best clients will find you. And don't be afraid to be you. You don't have to be buttoned up. You don't have to copy someone else. Put your personality in there and let people connect with you.
I love it. I call that being your digital twin. We don't want a YouTube version of you and an offline version. We don't want a LinkedIn version being different to a YouTube version. Just be your digital twin, bring it. That's who you are. That's what people find offline. There's nothing weirder than when someone appears one way and then you get to speak to them in a Zoom call or something. You're like, whoa, what's going on here? There's
Yeah.
a disconnect. It's a little weird. So, Zach, I am really appreciative. Sorry, I'll spit that out again. I'm really appreciative of everything that you've shared. And as I said at the beginning, this was completely something that I wanted to pick your brain, because I know that you have spent so much time researching, and you really know your stuff, not just from research, but because you're creating. So tell people, what's the YouTube channel name that they can come and find you so that they can subscribe and hit that notification bell? Because that's what we do on YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you search Zach Mitchem or We Are Video Makers, you should be able to find my channel. And if you are trying to grow a video podcast, start a video podcast, grow your YouTube channel, that's you're gonna find a lot of good stuff. I try to share it all on LinkedIn. Doesn't always make it there, but yeah, subscribe to the channel and you get it.
Love it. So thank you again for joining us. Thank you, everyone else that's listening in. I do appreciate you. Next week, I have another video person jumping on, but coming at things from a different way. So we have my friend Juma Bannister, who's coming on, and we're talking about content that converts. So how do you get the money from actually creating content? And he loves video and photography and that side of creating content. So I'm excited to have that. It came up because it was his birthday and he asked people that he wanted to be on a show. And I was like, come be on mine. I don't need an excuse. So looking forward to that. So to everyone that's joined us, I appreciate you, and I'll see you all next week. Cheers.